Yes, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's very.
Right here?
Very active. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't realize.
Yeah, so when the time comes, I'll get it fired up and we have a little clicker.
Okay, absolutely, okay.
Pretty much, yeah. Pretty straightforward.
Very good.
Thank you.
My bad. All the way there. I don't work to get in my steps. I mean, but I have stopped.
I'm sorry, that got your name. Okay.
I was trying to make that landscape. That's okay.
Yeah. Okay. Now we have, I think one of the families. Here. Right.
Is that here?
Yeah.
That's a little bit of a problem. Especially for the young one.
That's your story.
She started here. Yeah, she's one of the two that still work in the company. She's working from home. She does. Yeah. Yeah. Thank God she's survived. Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
Take it home next week.
Really like the work they have. Companies ended up staying. Yeah. They get rid of them. They started the same thing. And then they got rid of all these offices. And then they have these little mini offices where you call in and. That's the space there.
That's what I This is unique because it's still. And I knew. Well, I'm Steve from. How are you? Sam. I'm Darren. Pleasure. Yeah. This must be the younger. Yes, mother. My pleasure. Thank you for coming.
Not to help, like, just because.
Oh, because you have to.
Like,
Somebody's got.
I'm kind of good at that. Yeah, busy as ever today. You're gonna shout something, you do it or you do it? Then. Then it's okay.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm glad I asked, 'cause I had two choices there. Well,
I unfortunately I had to do the. I think I'll have to.
One way to do it. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah, you got a good place.
Yeah. Oh, here.
Oh, well, I. Oh, that would be very nice. Thank you. My glasses,
Really needs rally. It's supposed to do that.
I thought it sold.
They had you on Tried it, you know.
Oh, yeah.
Really like. Flower, everything else was breaks down. Yeah, breaks down. No, that's okay. I'm limited in all that. Yeah. I don't know why they do. It's hard.
All right, probably have to log in.
Sweet. A lot of people praise song. So they'll give you that little bit of sweetness. Break down much.
You should not check the box. Oh, it's transferring.
Good deal. We're all set.
Yeah. Because they're not lying back.
No,
Yeah.
I think. See, like, it's just. Oh, okay, yeah. No, he will.
Like that. Simple.
Right.
I would guess, that's what I'm saying.
Testing, no, we're not on yet. Testing, testing, get on. Testing. Coming on. It's there. Testing. Am I on? Yeah. Okay. All right, everyone, let's go ahead and get started. We have a very full agenda today. As a reminder, please silence your cell phones. For guests and visitors, my name is Jim Farmer, President-elect of the Dublin Worthington Rotary Club. I'd like to welcome you to our 43rd meeting of the 49th year of the club. The invocation and pledge today will be offered by the one and only Jerry Cass.
Not my words, but please bow your heads and pray with me. O Supreme Being, we thank you for the opportunity to gather as Rotarians today. We ask you to bless our food, our friendship, and our work. Inspire us to serve with integrity, compassion, and generosity. Help us to make a positive difference in our community and in our world. And we ask you to bless these scholarship winners in their life endeavors. Amen.
Yeah.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this point, we typically introduce visitors. Is there anybody here who's not a student or a relative of a student? If so, we will get to you in time. So first of all, announcements. Anyone with announcements, please make your way forward. No announcements?
That's good.
Wow. Okay, that saves time. Our sergeant today is Mike Moulton.
Yeah, we're good. I need to find George for that look. What was that look, George? Good afternoon, everyone. Great to see all your smiling faces. Got all these young people in? Well, hopefully I can entertain you just a little bit. Let's see who we have back here. Where's Pete Barnhart? Pete Barnhart, come out here and grab the pot. Take this, Ron. Prime it with $1. Pete's the only sergeant or the only greeter I know that shows up 20 minutes after the meeting starts. And then greets everybody.
Thank you.
And go get $1 from your wife.
Okay.
Cause I heard she drank way too much wine out in wine country when she was out there.
Yeah, everyone keep that.
No, not a secret. Everybody knew that. You told everybody. Oh,
Napa
I
Valley.
didn't mean that. Napa Valley. All righty. Happy dollars. I know we got some happy Rotarians out there. No happy Rotarians out there? There. Darnell's got one.
I have a very quick one, and I was a little late and I had to apologize to my guest a little bit. But I had a friend who invited me, out of Murfield this morning, and he said that I should be, as a veteran, like an honorary caddy. And so, this person I got the caddy for one hole, but he told me he had gone to jail. I said, oh, shoot. I'm gonna be with a criminal out here. And I go out and it was Scotty, somebody who's number one.
Scott Shuffler. That might be $2, Darnell.
And he was a nice person for criminal. I mean, I don't know who would have
That's a heck of a story. That's worth at least $1. All right, who else we have here? Dave?
Guess I should recognize that my wife has put up with me for 51 years as of last Saturday.
All right. Steve Feltman told me that. It's been a struggle. But Steve.
I'm going to Florida on Saturday.
Hey, all right. You got any extra room? Over here, Jeff.
I got razzed by Ken last week, so my daughter, my youngest, is graduated from high school off to Audubon in the fall.
Oh, congratulations.
I have one more.
All right, Darnell's got one more.
And no one tells Carmen this, but you know, the second was our 49th anniversary.
Oh,
And I should have said that first, right?
Tom?
We have Vacation Bible School this week at Miralo Pavilion. We have 65 children.
All right,
It's going great.
sounds good. And you're gonna have that in the Murillo facility? Nice, very nice.
You celebrated our grandson's graduation from high school. He's going to the Ohio Dominican University.
All right, congratulations. Jerry Katz.
Well, I'm happy because the food vendor committee met on Monday night. And we are doing well, we're all set. And we only need 2 more volunteers on Sunday from 3:30 to 5 o'clock. So, Mike,
Okay.
if nobody signs up here, you ought to fine them.
All right, there you go. I think I'm signed up on that slot. Anybody else? Ken Carey.
I'm incredibly fortunate to have a large number of nieces, nephews, great nieces, great nephews that are a lot of fun to spend time with. Learned at Christmas time, my niece, great niece, who just finished 8th grade, is a huge classic rock fan and loves the Rolling Stones. My
Nice.
wife and I are taking her to Cleveland to see the Rolling Stones in 10 days.
All right. That's a pretty good excuse there, Ken. Pete, I have $1 as well as Judy's back here. She's got none.
Well, we finally celebrated Pete's, birthday.
Whose birthday? Pete's birthday. Pete? How high was that? What is a dollar? What is it? It's a dime a year, isn't it? I got one here, Pete. My youngest granddaughter just graduated from Bexley High School this last week and is going to attend Ohio State. I'll keep you moving.
I'll do one more, I'll do one, my granddaughter, 3rd granddaughter graduated from Central Crossing in Rose City this last Saturday, and it was a great, Ohio State Fairgrounds, because they're redoing a whole bunch. There's a cluster getting in out and getting in, but, you know, she graduated, so. Whole family.
Wow. All right, now we'll move into the fine portion of this. Anybody here, raise your hand if you got to play in the Rotary golf outing this year. It was a week ago Friday. We had a number of folks here that came out and enjoyed themselves. If you did not get a chance to play in that, get $1 out. The 34th annual Memorial Tournament, and
Yes, don't pay.
this year, this year, some hack golfer won it. We'll let you know who that is when I bring the trophy in. So, now we got, today, the tournament started at Muirfield. We heard from Darnell, who was out there. We'll go by table here and see if you guys can answer these very simple questions. Wait a minute, before I get to that, can anybody here name the only lady Rotarian that won our memorial golf outing? Anybody?
Teresa Russell.
No?
Judy.
No? No one?
Not Judy
All
Burke.
right, there's $1 for you.
Who was it, BJ?
Cindy Kramer. Cindy's the only lady who's got her name on the trophy. Cindy was 90, I think it was mid to late 90s.
I knew she won.
All right. This table right here, this illustrious group. Sam, I see you're smiling, so you'll know this one very easily.
I doubt it.
What was the first year the Memorial Tournament played?
Which memorial?
Muirfield Memorial Golf Tournament. Now you shut up. I'm talking this table right here. Get $1 from Jerry just for piping in. No, don't be pulling your phone out.
Yes, 72.
No, it was 1976. The winner won $40,000. You know who that was? Never. Bonus question, Roger Maltby. All right, Rose table. Who won the Memorial, the Muirfield Memorial Tournament year 2? Right there. Correct answer, Jack Nicklaus. All right, bonus question. Bonus question is how many other years did he win it?
That's a different table.
One. He got answered for you, so he gets to pay your $1.
Oh.
Who's that, Jeff? All right, Jeff. I got one for Jeff back there. Ken, Carey, and those guys, they go to this every year, so they ought to know who this is. Who was year 10 winner? This could take a while.
We don't have a lot.
I know, their brains thinking. All right, get $1 from those guys. Hal Sutton. I know, I'm moving. Next 2 tables, those 2 right there. Year 20. Who won it in year 20? Oh, get $1 from them too. Tom Watson. All right, the back 3 tables over here. Last one. Who won the Muirfield Memorial Tournament the most times? Get up, come on. No answers? Tiger Woods won it 5 times. That's it, folks. Thank you.
Okay, if you feel like we've been invaded by students today, you're right, we have been. The first one that we want to hear from is our exchange student, Lucia Bender, who will come up and tell us what all she's going to do in return for the free lunch we're going to today.
Go.
Okay, we're good.
Can you guys hear me? Is it okay? Does it work now?
Sure.
Okay. Alright, so I'm Lucia Venergear and I'm going on a long-term exchange to Japan in mid-ish August. So it's just kind of like about me and sort of my preparation before going. This is my family, my mom, my dad, my sibling.
Use the microphone, please.
You can take it all.
Alright, does it work? There we go. Okay. Alright, so us on some trips and also the eclipse when we went up or over to my grandparents kind of for that, so that was pretty cool. Alright, and then my dog.
Use the microphone.
He wore those pajamas for longer than we thought he would, but yes. Felt necessary to include, cute dog. Alright, I graduated recently from Dublin High School. And that's where I spent most of my time for my first 2 years of high school, but then the second 2 years of high school, I was at Emerald Campus, which is a building that, if you don't know, it houses a lot of different academies. That there's not enough students at each of the separate 3 Dublin high schools, to have at, each separate high school. So they combined it all into one, and I was a part of the IB diploma program there. So that is, it's similar courses to AP courses, as they're weighted higher and they're at the college level. But as opposed to AP, where you can just kind of take a ton of classes, IB can combine it into a separate diploma that you can earn through them. That is more about trying to gain specific skills for college, a lot of writing, we did a lot of discussion, for a very long paper for that in chemistry. So that was just kind of like, and it's internationally recognized, so, across the world, people are taught it and use it. So I decided to do that for my second 2 years, instead of, maybe staying at SIOTA. So I met people from other schools and was able to gain some skills from that. Some of my hobbies, I like to read. I'm not asleep, as somebody thought, before I am reading. And then it's me with some of my friends. We were at a movie, I like hanging out with them, doing stuff. And then in the corner, I am somewhere in that photo, but that is a photo from Irish Fest last year. I'm part of an Irish fiddling group that's based at SIOTA. And we do Irish stuff, non-Irish stuff that we do, like an arrangement of shipping up to Boston by the Dropkick Murphys. Do you guys know that one? That's one of the more popular ones that are well known. And we just kind of, it's less formal than regular orchestra, where that's our concert attire, be it as it may. But it's a good way to like connect with people, and just kind of have that love of music in a less maybe structured way. Also beekeeping, we started when I was about in first grade. So it's been a kind of cool thing to like learn about and go throughout my years, and just sort of like my fun fact when people ask for a fun fact, because it's interesting. And then speaking of golf today, I did play golf for the school team. So that's been fun experience. And then also my rec basketball down there, that was at the end of this year sort of. So kind of things that I enjoy doing. And then where I'm going in Japan. So I just know the prefecture right now, which is like the state. I don't know like where in it yet. But some of the like, it's, so here, and the Tokyo is like there. So it's about an hour and a half north of Tokyo by train. And it's more of like rural and more countryside sort of area in general, as opposed to like Tokyo being the big city, urban bustling city. So some of the things that when you kind of look up the prefecture, some of the cool things that they have there, because I don't know exactly where I'm going, is the Azukawa Matsu Castle, and the Furusawa Bridge, some like cool touristy things that people have enjoyed. In preparation, we're doing kind of 4 things. There's Italki, which is an online tutoring thing where you talk with or are taught by people who maybe this is their native language, or they've known it for a while and are willing to teach it. So it's an online meeting that you just set up, and you're able to talk with people and kind of gain skills that way. I've been assigned a partner in Japan who's going to be coming to the US. She'll actually be going to Florida. But we will teach each other like different cultural things that we should know about that would be hard to learn about either through tutors or just sort of in general when researching. So that's been also really helpful. And then WaniKani, which is a website that helps you learn kanji, and like walks you through using mnemonics to help you figure that out. And then also Duolingo, just have keeping that daily sort of use of the language and try to work more on it. Then just sort of like learning some. It's summer, but we're gonna learn some. So there's 3 main alphabets that are used in Japanese. There's the hiragana, the katakana, the kanji, and then the romaji is more for like helping English speakers, more like just for pronunciation and stuff. So hiragana and katakana are both phonetic languages. So each of the symbols have sound attached to them. So the hiragana, all of those say Japan in Japanese, but hiragana is more for all the words that are kind of just like used usually. The katakana is for a lot of borrowed words. So if it's either sort of borrowed from English or maybe another language, katakana will be used more instead. And then there's also kanji, which is like the letter or the characters, and they will have sometimes different sounds attached to them depending on if they're separate or combined with something else. And the Romaji is just written out so you can more easily, for like an English learner as myself, figure out what the sounds will be. So they all say one, but the different ways of writing it. So the 6 B's that I have learned in my training were just kind of ways to help me be a good exchange student and understand like what my role would be as an exchange student. So just kind of using these sort of values, be curious, or be curious, be on purpose, be grateful, be of service, be here now, to really make sure I have the best experience I do on exchange. And then why do I want to go on exchange? It gives me a different cultural experience. I've traveled a lot, but I haven't been able to go to Asia yet, so this will be a really cool, like, different place that I haven't personally experienced before, and allowed me to build worldwide connections with friends from other places that might be exchanging in Japan or in Japan, that I can just be like friends with and enjoy having time with later in my life, not necessarily just while I'm on exchange. It also allowed me to have a new sense of self because I've had a lot of the same people in my classes since almost kindergarten at some point, so it will allow me to kind of maybe more develop who I feel I actually am and not always who people might think I will be or should be, even myself. And then some of my goals while I'm on exchange, I want to go into chemical engineering when I come back. And from like different people I've talked to, that would be a like good place that I can make connections in Japan, to maybe like a company, either through Rotary or otherwise, to get maybe experiences or different co-ops that I could have in Japan while I'm in college. It also helped me lose stereotypes on both sides, and just get to know people better and more personally, again, building connections, either with just like friends in general or, you know, with people, again, like in more a company setting, just kind of creating those cross-cultural connections and bringing about the Rotary goal for peace. Also allowing myself to fail. I don't know Japanese that very well, and I'm gonna be going to high school there, so I will take classes. And making sure I feel comfortable with that ability that I'm going to have to fail a lot of times while speaking and while learning. So making sure that I have good responses to that and get used to doing that. Also being patient with myself and others, translating things, trying to understand what's going on. It's not always going to be easy. I've already found it's not always easy. I'm just talking with some people, so making sure I have that patience with myself and others, and then also taking more pictures because I don't take a lot of pictures, and it's going to be a really cool experience. Great, thank you.
Normally, we would subject you to questions, but since we're kind of pressed for time, could you hang around a little bit after the meeting?
Yes.
And people, I'm sure, will have questions for you. So I will now turn this over to Darnell, who's going to introduce our scholarship students.
Yeah, we're privileged to have, well, actually 4 brilliant students from Dublin. And the 3 that I'm going to introduce are actually our scholarship winners for this year. And I'm going to call them up, you know, like in order of an alpha order of their schools. So first we'll have, you know, Colleen come up, and then we'll have from Kaufman, we have Eileen from Ealing. Did I pronounce that correctly? Ealing from Jerome, and then we'll have Yana from Scioto. So Colleen, if you wouldn't mind coming up and just speak briefly, share some aspirations and so forth.
Thank you.
Hello, can you all hear me well?
Yeah.
My name is Colleen Schwenger and I just graduated from Dublin Kaufman High School. And I plan on studying international relations at Georgetown University next fall. And kind of my like service story connects to what I want to study in the future and my experiences in high school. So one of my biggest passions is learning languages. And so that first started in my German classes at Kaufman. And I was able to actually win a scholarship to study German abroad over the summer of my sophomore year. And I gained fluency in German. And that was a really eye-opening experience for me, and seeing how international exchange can really like form a person. I can relate to a lot of what you said earlier. And I really appreciate how Rotary promotes those experiences, because later in my high school career, I was able to volunteer with the Ohio German Language School, which is downtown, and help develop programming for children, in the German language. And I also was able to start tutoring a Ukrainian student over Zoom whose German classes got canceled when the war in Ukraine started. And I am really grateful that something that I am really passionate about, which is learning languages, can be used to help serve others. And actually, last year, I was able to win a State Department scholarship to study Russian in Estonia. And I am at an intermediate level in Russian right now, but my goal in college is to study Russian more and hopefully gain more fluency there and be able to use that skill to help our country abroad with the State Department and also continue to use my talents to serve others. So I am really grateful to the Rotary for recognizing my experiences in my service, and I hope to keep in contact with you guys and let you know how my college experience goes. So thank you.
Elaine?
Okay, everyone hear me, right? And good afternoon now, actually. I have a bit, like a little bit more of a speech prepared, but it's all right. My name's Aileen Gastina, and I'm here with my parents as well as my younger sister right now. I'm the oldest of four, and I've lived in a Latino family, so Spanish culture has always been something I've grown up in. And throughout high school, I was active in entrepreneurship club, my orchestra as my first chair violin section leader. I was also State of Ohio HOSA Vice President and very active in my career technical education at Tulsa. As a graduate from the pre-vet program, I'm attending West Virginia University and majoring in animal and nutritional sciences with the goal of becoming a small animal veterinarian. I've been involved in service learning programs and giving back to the community since grade school. From all my service work, I believe my annual Halloween fundraiser that I created, the Deck of Terror, has been my best service experience. Halloween is my favorite holiday, and I created the Deck of Terror from the spooky atmosphere. I asked my friends, my church, kids in my neighborhood to help create this deck underneath my house deck in the backyard, and together we made a very cool attraction. We dressed up and had lots of fun scaring, but also giving back to the community. So the Deck of Terror has been operating for the past 3 years. And in that time, we donated over $3,000 to my church's missions project, a local nonprofit organization called Grateful Acres Pet Sanctuary and Adoption, and collected canned goods for a local food pantry. In addition, I awarded 552 service hours to kids who volunteered. And it was just really important to me, as well as just the opportunity to help others in need and have fun while doing it. And I encourage other people to do that a lot, not just with that, but just getting fun and gathering friends and doing something small. It's really been an honor and a blessing being here, and I really appreciate the Rotary for honoring all of us here. And I just look forward to giving back to others as I head to West Virginia.
And third and final is Yana. You may recall that Yana was our Rotary speaker winner, and she won here for the essay, and she also placed in the district, and now she's here for scholarship. So 3-time winner.
Hi, everyone, again. If it's meeting you for the second time, I'm just so honored to be here once again. I'm Yana Kim, and I am recently a graduate from Dublin Sciota High School. I will be attending Vanderbilt University in Nashville, Tennessee for Human Organization and Development on a pre-launch track. Throughout my high school, I really enjoyed actively serving as a leader in my church's youth group, the Korean Church of Columbus. And I volunteered as a volunteer every Saturday night at a local church in the greater Columbus metropolitan area. called Agora Ministries, where we serve low-income families and children from around ages 3 to all the way to high school. And we would make food for them, and we would serve food for them every dinner. And we would also play with the children, and that was really a heartwarming experience for me that I will also continue volunteering this summer with my lead. I also love volunteering for summer camps, winter retreats and things like that. And I also started a strings quartet at my school orchestra, and we were able to volunteer and play for food pantries, veterans, and it was definitely an experience that I loved, playing the violin and creating music for the local community. One of my favorite projects that I've done throughout my high school career was when I was a freshman, I was in a program at MIT where I created animal cells that were 3D printed, and I got to share them to the local elementary schools where they can truly be immersed as they learn about biology. And that was definitely a great experience because I also got to work with the Ohio State School for the Blind, and that was really cool. I'm really excited for my future plans. I'm hoping, not completely sure what I will do exactly, but I'm hoping to use my experience with also tutoring with refugees from Somalia online. And working with just so many different cultures and hopefully working in international business law and also possibly doing like immigration law, not completely solidified with my plan, but I'm really excited to continue to work with just so many people around the world and just learn more about history and also business, which is what I would like to specialize in. So human and organizational development is also business and psychology, their version of that, just in case that was confusing, because I definitely wouldn't have known what that was either. But I'm really grateful for the Rotary for allowing me to just be here once again. And it definitely has a special place for me as I was able to win first here and also first place in the district fourth place speech contest, where I got to speak about cultural awareness, which is definitely something that I would like to continue to advocate for. Thank you so much.
Wow, is there any doubt that we're in good hands? Please give them a round of applause, please. And also the parents and friends, would you please stand? And Colleen, I want to introduce your dad, Joe, because I think you forgot to do it, and I think he should be introduced too. So parents, friends, stand. And if you wish to leave now, you can, but we're going to take pictures in the back, or you can stay, which is, we hope that you do, but, not necessarily that you do, but so, with that, thank you much, and I'll turn over the mic and shut up.
It is indeed humbling to be around people who at their tender age have accomplished more than most of us have accomplished in our entire lives. So once more, let's give it to these students. Thank you. It is now my pleasure to introduce our speaker for today, Gary Doherty. He's Director of State Government Affairs, American Diabetes Association. Are we on?
Yeah, we just got to get close to it.
Gary is an experienced government affairs professional with a 34-year career consisting of nonprofit healthcare advocacy, association management, lobbying, staff management, and media relations. He has developed and mastered a critical skill set that has enabled him to advance the interests of those seeking access to services, information, and representation. Gary's professional demeanor and collaborative leadership style allow him to initiate, develop, and maintain contacts within the community, among coalition partners, and with leaders in federal, state, and local governments in order to advocate for public policy change. So let's please welcome our very patient speaker today, Gary Doherty.
Try it this way first, and then my voice does tend to carry, so. Thank you for the introduction. I also want to thank Tim Shear for inviting me to make this presentation. Tim couldn't be with us today, but I saw he was joining on Zoom. So Tim, we'll catch up soon. I've known Tim since.
Absolutely, Gary.
known Tim since my early days in the State House, a few decades ago. If I can get so I'm happy to answer questions at the end. I know we're kind of on an expedited schedule, so if you want to copy down my email address, I'm also happy to respond to questions that might arise after this program. I'll show it again at the end of the program. First of all, what is diabetes? As I was introduced, I'm the Director of State Government Affairs for the American Diabetes Association. I've worked with the association for nearly 11 years, and to be perfectly honest, didn't really know much about diabetes before I started. Learned a lot over the last 11 years, and particularly know just how much it touches most everybody's life in one way or another. But very simply, diabetes is a condition where the body's blood glucose levels are higher than normal, resulting in the body's inability to use or store blood glucose for energy. Basically, the body doesn't produce enough insulin to convert blood glucose to energy. Now, there are two types, there's more than two types. The two most common types of diabetes are type 1 and type 2. They used to be called juvenile diabetes and adult onset diabetes. Those terms have become meaningless, really, because juvenile diabetes is now type 1 diabetes. Anybody can get type 1 diabetes. People are commonly diagnosed in their 20s or 30s or even older. And type 2 diabetes used to be called adult onset, but children are often diagnosed with type 2 as well. So the names have become a little more medically accurate. But in type 1 diabetes, basically the pancreas, which produces insulin in our bodies, doesn't produce insulin anymore. About 5 to 10% of people with diabetes have type 1. Type 2, the pancreas will produce insulin, but it doesn't produce enough. Or it doesn't produce it as effectively as in, hesitate to say, a normal person. Let's just say a person without diabetes. So about 90 to 95% of people with diabetes have type 2. This is the obligatory boring statistics part of the program. But I think you'll agree that these are rather compelling and in many cases startling statistics. On the left-hand side, you'll see some data about the United States and then some Ohio information on the right-hand side. But consider in a country that has 330 million people, give or take, more than 38 million Americans have diagnosed diabetes. And another 8.7 million have diabetes and don't even know. And perhaps the most disconcerting statistic is that nearly 98 million Americans have prediabetes. In other words, their blood sugar levels are elevated, not quite high enough to be diagnosed as diabetes. But if the person doesn't alter their diet, their exercise regimen, they could advance to get that diabetes diagnosis. On the right-hand side, we don't have a lot of good, solid, accurate information about children, so I'm presenting some adult information. But you can see it's just as prevalent in Ohio as it is nationwide. Approximately 12.6% of the adult population in Ohio has diagnosed diabetes. That's 1 in 8 people. I don't want to count around here, but if we look at this crowd alone, just according to the statistics, probably 4 or 5 people have diagnosed diabetes, and that doesn't count those who have prediabetes or may not know that they have diabetes yet. And every year, 54,000 Ohioans are diagnosed with diabetes. As I mentioned, it's rare for somebody to not know somebody else who has diabetes, whether it's a family member, a colleague at work, a friend. So it is extraordinarily prevalent in our society. Also expensive. People with diabetes have medical expenses that are more than 2.5 times those who don't have diabetes. And in 2022, the total estimated cost of diagnosed diabetes in the United States is $412.9 billion. And Ohio's share of that is about $12.3 billion. And you can see below a breakdown of the direct medical expenses attributed to diabetes, as well as indirect costs from lack of productivity, basically people missing work because they're not feeling well, because of doctor's appointments, because of hospitalizations. So, as we've heard, diabetes is very expensive in many ways. So what is insulin and who needs it? Insulin is a hormone that is naturally produced in our bodies. Everybody needs insulin. Most of us produce adequate supplies of insulin naturally. As I mentioned before, those with type 1 don't produce insulin at all. And so everybody with type 1 diabetes requires exogenous or insulin from an outside source, outside of their natural production in the body. And then historically, about 30% or more people with type 2 diabetes also need insulin. So you can see the need for insulin is pretty substantial. So this is why we're here today, to talk a little bit about the cost of insulin. There is clearly an insulin affordability crisis in America. We've got 8.4 million people who rely on insulin to live. I want to stress that, rely on insulin to live. Insulin prices have tripled between 2002 and 2013, and since then they've doubled again. I talk to people all the time who say, when I was first diagnosed, 20 years ago or so, I could buy my insulin for $25. And now it's $300 or more for many types of insulin. But the cost to produce a vial of insulin averages around $5. So something that costs $5 to produce is costing us $300 or more to purchase each vial of insulin. Frederick Banting, one of the inventors of insulin, sold the patent for $1. And he's quoted as saying, insulin doesn't belong to me, it belongs to the world. And his idea was that everybody should have access to it. And back then, they did. But circumstances have changed, and more entities have become involved in the insulin supply chain, and it has become incredibly expensive, out of reach for many people. Another thing, not surprisingly, non-adherence to medication prescriptions is a problem, leading to adverse health outcomes. The affordability of medications is cited as a significant barrier, leading to non-adherence. If you can't afford it, you're not going to adhere to your medication, your treatment plan. And in some cases, if you can't afford it, you end up rationing your insulin, which can be dangerous and frankly life-threatening. We hear a lot of times, and I know families who have had family members with diabetes. I'm thinking of one in particular, young man aged off his parents' health insurance. And all of a sudden realized just how much his insulin was costing. And he couldn't afford it. And so he rationed his insulin until he could get back to his doctor and get another prescription. And he ended up dying of diabetic ketoacidosis. So when I say that insulin is life-saving, and that you need it to live, unfortunately, there are multiple examples out there of why that is exactly the case. There's evidence that shows that reduced copays or cost sharing for patients does improve adherence to our medication. That only makes sense. If it's more affordable, if it's more accessible, we're going to take it. I also cited a study that shows that zero copay benefit also has cost savings of about $63 per member per month. Doesn't sound like a whole lot of money, but for a lot of people, $756 a year is a lot of money to save. So this is, people shouldn't die because they can't afford to live. This is a statement that I include in all of my testimony before state legislatures, in all of my meetings with lawmakers when we're talking about the issue of insulin affordability. As we've discussed already, it is so true that people should not die because they can't afford to live. And when the life-sustaining medication that we need is out of reach financially, consequences can be dire. So on the state level, it all began about 5 years ago. The American Diabetes Association embarked on an insulin affordability campaign. And in 2019, Colorado became the first state to enact a law that limited patient cost sharing on insulin to $100 a month in state-regulated health plans. There are now, since then, there are now 25 states plus the District of Columbia that have enacted some form of copay cap or limit on cost sharing. Those limits range from $100 down to $25 until just earlier this year, New York became the first state. So far, they're the only state, but we're hoping we can add to that list as well, to eliminate insulin cost sharing altogether. So effective January 1st of 2025, people in state-regulated health plans in New York can access insulin for $0 cost sharing. A number of states, a number of the 25 states that have enacted copay caps have since reduced those copay caps. So when Colorado did it in 2019, the $100 figure, I won't say that it was pulled out of thin air, but they were the first state to do it. The legislative sponsors got together, they talked with some stakeholders, and they kind of landed on $100 as being something that would be helpful to people who are paying for insulin, but would also be able to get through the legislature. I mean, they had to be realistic about it. So that's kind of how they landed on $100. And then states after that kind of took that as an example and passed $100 copay caps. But since then, and we'll talk a little bit later about what's happened in Medicare, $35 has kind of become the norm. So a number of states, and I mentioned Illinois and West Virginia because those are two of the states that I cover and I can speak to them directly, have passed additional legislation to reduce those $100 copay caps that each of those states had down to $35. So here's a map of the 25 states plus DC that have enacted some form of copay cap. of the 9 states that I work in, 4 have enacted copay caps. I mentioned Illinois and West Virginia at $100, and they both reduced theirs to $35. Kentucky enacted a $30 copay cap. No longer cover Virginia, but when I did, we were able to get a $50 copay cap enacted there. So we're working in the rest of my states and all of those white states there to try to build on that 25 number and get more states to pass copay caps. The Michigan House passed legislation in 2021, a $50 copay cap. But then the Senate didn't take action and it kind of died. The Michigan House is on the verge of passing it again any day now. I just checked their calendar today and it's on the calendar for consideration today. Whether or not they get to it, I don't know. But so we're making a little progress in Michigan. Here in Ohio, we have been working on it since 2019. We have not gained the traction that we need to quite yet. We are continuing to work in Ohio on that as well. I also want to point out that insulin is not the only thing that's expensive about diabetes. Supplies, diabetes supplies like continuous glucose monitors, insulin pumps, test strips, lancets, lancing devices, things like that are expensive too. So some states, not as many as the 25 that have limited cost sharing on insulin, but some states are taking the next step and enacting copay caps on specified diabetes supplies and equipment as well. Connecticut, Delaware, DC, and West Virginia are among those states. So I want to turn just to the federal level. It is very clear that action, our success on the state level, we've got half of the country passing copay caps at the state level, has influenced policymaking at the federal level. It all started back in 2020. The American Diabetes Association was invited to an event at the White House where it was announced the Part D senior savings model was launching, and that allowed certain Medicare Part D prescription plans to offer insulin at $35 per month. And then last year, cost sharing for insulin in Medicare, for all of Medicare, has been reduced to $35. There's also bipartisan congressional legislation pending, the Insulin Act, and of course, and I've got to record my notes because Congress has to have an acronym for everything. The Insulin Act stands for Improving Needed Safeguards for Users of Life-Saving Insulin Now. So I wonder which staff person came up with, okay, go get me something that will spell out insulin. So they came up with that. But that's an important piece of legislation because that would lower, or that would cap monthly copays on insulin in commercial health plans that aren't regulated by states. So we're hoping for some momentum there as well. So let's talk about Ohio. As I mentioned, we haven't yet been able to gain a lot of traction in Ohio, but Senate Bill 61 has been introduced. It would limit cost sharing to $35 a month per prescription. The sponsor, Senator Herschel Craig from right here in Columbus, and Nathan Manning, he's from North Ridgeville, in Northeast Ohio. They presented sponsor testimony on the bill back in March of 2023. No action has been taken since then on Senate bill. In the House, a bill was introduced just a few months ago It's a little different from the Senate bill. It also has a $35 limit on cost sharing, but that applies in the aggregate. In other words, if you need multiple types of insulin, which many people do, it would, let's say you needed 3 prescriptions, separate prescriptions of insulin. Under the Senate bill, it would be $35 times 3 for a prescription. Under the House bill, it's $35 in aggregate. So if you need 3 prescriptions or 2 or however many you need, it would be $35 a month for your full prescription, no matter the size of them. And it also includes a provision for limiting cost sharing on diabetes supplies, many of the ones that were listed on one of the previous slides, at $100, also in the aggregate. So not $100 for this supply and $100 for that supply, but $100 for the supplies you need in June, and then in July, and so forth. To make it even more affordable, the cost sharing limits in the House bill apply before the person's deductible. This bill was heard in the House Insurance Committee just a few weeks ago in May. Representative Munira Abdullahi of Columbus and Thomas Hall from down in Butler County are the bipartisan sponsors of this bill. They both have type 1 diabetes, so they know what they are talking about. They presented sponsor testimony on May 22nd in that bill. I was there, a lot of good support, a lot of good discussion on the bill. The second hearing has not yet been scheduled. We certainly hope that it will be, that would allow proponents to testify in support of the bill. There's limited session remaining in an even number. If you know anything about the state government, even numbered years are pretty lean in policymaking and pretty heavy in politics. So we've got elections this year, which reduces the number of actual days that legislators are in Columbus to conduct business either in committees or on the floor of the House and Senate. So not sure what progress we'll make in Ohio again this year. Rest assured, we will continue to advocate for limits on cost sharing, not only for insulin, but for diabetes supplies. I just wanted to share, after that hearing in May, we had some good media coverage. There was a TV story on Channel 5 out of Cleveland, and similar story in the Ohio Capital Journal. I am going to conclude there and just put this slide up. You know, at the end of any presentation I make, I give folks the opportunity to sign up to be volunteers for the American Diabetes Association. You can scan the QR code, text advocate to that number. We're always looking for people who have stories to share about their personal journey with diabetes or that of their family members. It's so important as we're meeting with legislators, writing letters to the editor, op-eds, testifying before the legislature. So if there's an interest in that, I would be happy to talk to you more about that. We're limited on time, so we'll defer the discussion to after the program.
Under a couple of questions. Okay.
Did I see correctly that price to the consumer is $300? So is it my understanding that it's just a very profitable business for these, pharmaceutical? Yeah.
If you look at the financial statements of any drug maker, nobody is hurting. The people who are hurting are those who can't afford products they're producing. And yes, you would call those numbers correctly. Insulin can cost us upwards of $300 or more. And, I mean, I'll just go back to, people shouldn't die because they can't afford to live. It's not right. Yes, sir. Yeah, interestingly, we find that drug manufacturers, or at least in this case, insulin manufacturers, are not vocally opposed to it. They don't support it, but they're not vocally opposed to it. We're finding more of the opposition comes from health plans. There's a fear, unfounded, I might add, that by implementing limits on cost sharing, that will affect premium rates for everybody else. It doesn't. It's very minimal. We've got studies from other states that have done this. They use terms like minimal, de minimis, immaterial, if they increase at all. It's just a very tiny amount. And Washington State did this. Their premium rates actually went. I was talking to a gentleman before the meeting saying, it's either pay me now or pay me later. And, people just, if they would just pay for the insulin now, we won't have to pay for all the complications and the amputations and hospitalizations and so forth, the horrible complications that can result, over here.
Okay, Don, last question.
The insurance program provides 0% conscious sharing for anything that insulin. State, that its own employees and officials seem to understand that saves the money. And it's also the right thing to do.
It's not a hard concept to understand, but we have our challenges. Thanks for that.
Thanks for all the good work. Okay, we now have a raffle. Judy Barnhart is going to take our money.
So we have $31 from the weekly and $473 for the. Okay, the last four numbers are 693. 693.
Ford wins again.
Six, eight, nine, four.
6894.
Well, give me a break. He wins every other week. Okay, well done. 7 of hearts. Okay, please join me in the four-way test. Give you all kinds of steam.
Next fundraiser for our club is insulin manufacturing.
On behalf of all the things we think, say, and do, first, second, third,
Goodwill and better French.
we are adjourned. Okay. I was gonna get to it. She's vacating something. Oh, she's gonna be gone next week too. Oh. She